Hey, how you doing there, my dear friends? It's Dan. I'm in beautiful, beautiful Oak Lawn, Illinois. You knew that already, didn't you? Yeah. Oh, man, Oak Lawn. Ah, the peat. The peat. I'm delirious. I'm sorry. I apologize. Here, I got a thought for you, though. This is a real thought. A number of years ago, I came across it's really a pretty simple concept, but it struck, when I encountered it, it struck me as wise and helpful because I really hadn't seen it specifically identified before. Once I saw it in writing, I'm like, okay, I recognize that. I hadn't seen it explained before. And the idea is basically this. Get with God. You get on board with God rather than expecting God to get himself aligned with you. Yes, I know. It's really, really simple. I know. But the reality is that it's not unusual for something like this to happen on a fairly regular basis with people who are followers of Jesus. This can happen. People who say they're trusting in God, something like this happens. We come up with ideas and plans and pronouncements and objectives, and we come up with points of view. We come up with something, whatever it is, we come up with something. We earnestly believe, it seems good, it seems right, we believe, we're earnest. But then, having come up with something that we like, we came up with it, we like it, something that we're vested in, then we begin to see if maybe we can get God on board with what we've already come up with. Let's, get God on board. Maybe start looking for scriptural justification with what we've come up with. Again, I know, it's very simple. It's a simple idea. But there is a sense in which we take this approach, and it's really, if you think about it, it's kind of backwards. It's not the worst. I'm not even saying it's the worst thing on earth. It's just a little backwards. The approach we sort of tend to take sometimes is, I'm going to come up with something, and I'm going to then try to get God on board with what I've got, as opposed to, I'm going to make sure I get myself on board with God and what God's up to. There's a Christian pastor and writer from a bygone era, a man of some repute. His name is A.W. Tozer. Maybe you've heard his name. And he writes about people he says, they'll have God on their side because, now you want God on your side, right? He says, these are people who will have God on their side because they will be careful to stay on God's side. That's the idea we're getting at here. It has a lot to do with being willing to put our focus on God and on what God's Word says and on the truths of God, and being willing to allow God to lead.